Good afternoon, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all today? It's Rod Fleming in the Philippines. We're going to discuss a little bit about those luminaries, Douglas Murray, Graham Linehan and various others, and their appalling attitudes towards genuine transsexuals. But before we do that, please remember, in order to continue to do this, provide this service for you, I really do need you to go onto the links which I will provide, one of them, and buy me a coffee, join the Patreon, do something, because we need the money. Anyway, to get on with the show now, I saw a piece by Douglas Murray, and Douglas Murray is a man whom I normally respect highly. He's a good writer, and he's more often than not, on the right side. But in this particular piece, he said, absolutely ridiculous quote, he said that we don't know the causes of gender dysphoria. Now that is a lie. That is a blatant lie, and I do not believe that Murray doesn't know that that's a lie. The simple fact is that as far as the two main forms of gender dysphoria in males is concerned, we absolutely do know what the causes are. One is a form of sexual inversion, an extreme form of sexual inversion, and the other is a form of it's a paraphilia, wherein the subject becomes attracted to himself but as a woman. And there's evidence that the second one is actually heritable, that it actually runs in families, because these paraphilias like that, they tend to. It's something that happens, right? So we know this is the case. There's no reason why autogynephilia would not be in that grouping, and that would probably explain why some autogynephiles suggest that they might have had something like autogynephilic experiences in childhood. It was kind of like crushes on their future self, and it was a kind of, how could you put that, a precursor, which came from the fact that their condition is actually heritable, right? So they were just demonstrating they're going to go this way. Doesn't mean that they're sexually inverted or HSTS. HSTS are different, right? Just get that straight. But these two types we understand extremely well. In females, we understand the HSTS type extremely well. We've known about it and we've understood it for a very long time, well over 100 years. So how can Murray come along and say, oh, we don't really understand, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you why in a minute. But first, we have to admit that there is one type called rapid onset gender dysphoria, which is less well understood. Now, in males, rapid onset gender dysphoria is probably just autogynephilia. There may be some cases which are slightly different, but in general terms, it looks awful like it. It looks awful like it. Autogynephilia is known to suddenly appear. It just comes on at a certain point in puberty. And because we're talking here in RGD about people whose condition does appear in puberty, then this is very likely. That doesn't mean very much in terms of how you should deal with it, but it does tell you that it's understood. In females, it's not understood really at all well. I don't actually think that for most cases of ROGD in females, I don't think they're actually gender dysphoria at all. I think that some sort of social contagion, which is a kind of mass hysteria, caused largely by social media, I'm afraid, and the way that people are persuaded to do things through social media and peer pressure. And I think that there's really no study being done into ROGD in females anyway. I think if ever there is, then we will find out that it's really the same as things like bulimia, self-harm, suicidality in adolescent females, and a whole raft. I mean, there's a raft of conditions of female adolescents which are very, very similar and seem to be caused largely by the demands that the modern world puts on women. Instead of training them to be, wives and mothers and bring up kids, we expect them to do a whole lot of things which really aren't natural for them, and then we wonder why they get a little bit sick in the head. To me, it's obvious. But why did Murray say that we don't know? No. I'll tell you why he said that. He said that because Murray's gay. And he has bought into, or apparently bought into, the idea that gayness is a protected quality, right? And this is this complete canard called same-sex attraction. Now, nobody is attracted to sex. You're attracted to gender. So, fine. Douglas Murray is obviously a girl. He is attracted, presumably, to big, masculine, hairy men. I don't know whether he can get them or not, but that's what he wants, I would suggest. And in this, he's no different from that nasty little twerp, Owen Jones. Just thinking about Owen Jones kind of makes you feel a bit icky, you know. Leaving that aside for the moment. The problem here is that these people are incapable of making any kind of balanced judgment about this topic because they have a vested interest, because they have a particular prior position. They are gay. They want to see gayness protected. Gay isn't an orientation, it's a lifestyle, right? It's quite clear that Murray, to me at least, it is clear that Murray and Jones are sexually inverted. They both absolutely classic fit into the sexual inversion descriptions, into the profile, and it's highly likely that both of them, but certainly if they were here, they would probably be girls. Sorry, that's the way it is. And it's just the fact that we have had this ridiculous new gay man thing foisted upon us in the West, which has persuaded them to pretend to be men. And then we have the very nasty people like Graham Linehan. Sorry, I do beg your pardon, mate. We call you Linehan. Linehan and that odious troll, Morty. Now, the fact is, these are the classic NGMs of an older generation. I mean, the young NGMs, they're all in the gym, they don't give a monkeys. They're busy oiling each other's bodies and then, you know, let's get the condoms out. But Morty and Linehan, they come from an older generation. In my opinion, they are both pederasts. And when I ask myself, why do these people concern themselves so much about what happens to a tiny percentage of male children, of boys? And it is tiny. The number of genuine sexual inverts we've discussed this already, in any population is very small. It's certainly not more than 1%, probably less. There are other causes of transgenderism, but genuine sexual inverts who will complete, particularly those who will complete, yeah, that's a really small number. They're a small number even amongst the community of transgenders. So why are these people so exercised about it? Why is it such a big deal? I mean, because they are not exercised about autogynephilic boys, because autogynephilic boys are not gay. Sorry, gentlemen, they're not homosexual. They're never going to join your nice little botty boy club. Not ever. The ones you're talking about are a tiny number, a really tiny number. But they're very important to you because you want them. You want them because you believe, or I think you believe, that one consequence of people completing, of these people, they don't really transition, they complete themselves as women, is that the new gay man lifestyle will collapse. That may well be the case. That may well be true. And if it is, well, why would we be bothered? Why is anybody concerned about this? I mean, it's a lifestyle that was only invented in the 1960s. It's scarcely 60 years old. And yet we're all so exercised about, the rights, the rights, the rights, same-sex attraction, which doesn't exist. All that stuff, you know? And we're talking about a form that if you'd gone back to 1955, for example, simply did not exist. It wasn't there. This is all a confection invented in American universities and exported throughout the world, without asking the rest of the world, of course, because America never asks, do you? You never ask. And if people disagree, we've got the pin for the bombers, that sort of thing. No, am I wrong? Ask any Iraqi. That's what's happening. This ridiculous lifestyle, which has been invented and has no real meaning at all, in which people what you don't understand when you look at it from the outside is that you don't understand that within the lifestyle, there are indicators of what the person actually is. And these are actually gender signals. Now, if you go back to the 80s, I remember I went to art school, so I had an awful lot of these people around me, and they're fine usually, One of the things that was very much an indicator of your position, of your gender, right, of the role that you desired to play in sex, was you would put a handkerchief in your jeans pockets. I mean, in those days, they were all wearing white t-shirts and jeans, And if you put it in the right pocket, that meant you were a top. If you put it in the left pocket, that meant you were a bottom. So that's a gender signal. It's basically saying, on the one side, I'm a guy, and on the other side, I'm a girl. And that's gender. People don't get that. That's gender already. I mean, they might be wearing identical clothes, cowboy boots and blue jeans and white t-shirts, but they've just made gender signals. So we know that the idea of egalitarian relationships within this group, it's nonsense. It's just camouflage. It's just camouflage. And if they're prepared to make gender statements like that, well, why not just go the whole hog and be a girl, vanish into society as a girl? And one of the things that really annoys me is that you always get this situation where, I know what people like these want. They want the boys. They want the boys to, replenish the meat locker. And of course they'll say to people like me, but you're the same. You want the same thing, don't you? After all, you want people, these young transsexual male children, to be girls. Isn't that the same reason? And the answer is no, it's not. Because what we want is for them to disappear as women. We want them to enter society as women, fully able to pass as women, so that nobody knows. And if nobody knows, how can they be predated on? How could we go out hunting them if we don't know who they are? How hard is it for you to understand this? Have you been considering certain things for so long that logic has departed the building, perhaps? The fact is that the people who are trying to help these kids to get on and live the lives that they really should do if they're sexual inverts, we don't get anything out of it. What would we get out of it? And anyway, I'm married. I'm fixed up. I don't need that. Sorry. No, we are not the predators. The predators are the new gay man. They want the boys for a very basic reason. They want to turn them into gay men and keep them, hold them, bind them within that lifestyle. And unfortunately, Murray seems to, join the club. Well, we don't really know what causes gender dysphoria. Yes, we bloody do, Douglas. We bloody well do. We understand it very well indeed. And it would be a big help if people like you would actually do the research, read the literature, and find out for yourselves. It's not that there's any shortage. Just go on my website, rodfleming.com. Watch this channel. You will find out. In males, there's two pathways into gender dysphoria. Two different forms of gender dysphoria. And they're both well understood. What is complicated about that, Douglas? Why do you need to muddy the water? There are hundreds, probably thousands of papers on this now. It's in the DSM-5, for goodness sake. It's there, chapter and verse. How could this possibly be something you could get confused over? I'll tell you how. It's because you want your readers to believe that it is actually something mysterious, that it can't be predicted, and thus you can get your mitts on more recruits. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Be honest. Just for once. Be honest about it. Thank you so much, folks. Rant over for today.